Hey folks, Trevor here. Welcome to the rooftop. I want to talk about dry hopping for a second today. So, great technique for getting great hop aroma into your beer. A lot of different ways to do that, both in the fermenter and in the keg. I've got a beer here that I have just finished fermenting and need to get it over here into the keg. And between moving that beer from here to there, I somehow want to get some of these hops into that beer. So I'm going to walk you through the way that I do that. Alright, so with dry hopping, usually you're looking for some way to contain, especially with pellet hops, you're looking for some way to contain those hops because they tend to be very difficult to clear out of the beer and tend to clog things. If you're doing it in the fermenter, it's not such a challenge, but certainly if you're dry hopping in the keg, you run a real risk of clogging up the dip tube and then have to take that out, potentially contaminating your beer. So it's a really good idea to try to contain those hops as much as possible. So a couple things that folks will do, things that I've done, these cheap muslin bags work really well. They're disposable. You can just use them, put the hops in there, and then toss them when you're done. These mesh bags are quasi-reusable. You can use them a few times, although I've had a hard time actually getting these things closed to hold the hops in. If I do it in the fermenter, I like this big massive tea strainer that I use. But in the keg, what I really like to use is these mesh canisters. These work really well. They're the perfect size to go down into the keg and give a lot of area for the hops to come in contact with the beer. So this is the one I'm going to be using today. All right, so the first thing that I do is I sanitize the mesh container that I'm going to be using. And that just makes sure that there's no contaminants getting into the beer from the dry hop container. Alright, then once I've done that, I'm just going to fill the container, the mesh container, with the hops that I've already weighed out. There's about 4 ounces of hops here. Alright, then the next thing I'm going to do, this keg is still empty. I'm just going to drop that canister right in there. And then I'm going to purge this with CO2. Now, I'm not going to get too into kegging techniques right now. There's a couple different ways that you can do this to minimize oxidation in the finished beer. I'm just going to purge the keg a couple times with CO2 and then transfer directly in. Alright, got the canister in there. I'm going to do just a little CO2. You don't have to turn this up a lot. I'm just going to let that fill up. And then once it's full, I'm going to purge that, burp it a few times, let it fill back up, probably 3 times, maybe 4. Alright, 3rd time. This is awesome smell of hops every time I do that. Alright, so the last step here is to get the beer from the fermenter into the keg. There's several different ways to do this to reduce oxidation. That's not what this video is about, so I'm just going to do a real simple one where I'm going to purge this keg again and then take the lid off and then use just a simple tube and gravity feed the beer into this. But it's a very effective, easy way, and should, filling the keg up with CO2 should minimize quite a bit of the oxygen that is still left in the keg. So I've used this method quite a few times and had really great success with it. So let's do it. Remember to keep everything sanitary and sanitized. So what I'm going to do is take that. Now this is a bucket of sanitizer. So I'm going to just stick that on there. Drop that in. Open the valve. Make sure to pull this out for the airlock on your fermenter. And then we're rolling. Alright, then once we're done, we can just pull that tube out, set it aside, clean it, and then put our lid on. And then pressurize this and start carbonating. So I hope that you found this short video useful on dry hopping in a keg. If you did, give it the thumbs up. Also, of course, as always, subscribe to my channel if you like these videos. And if you want to see all of my videos, brew day notes, and everything else, you can visit welcometotherooftop.com. Thanks.